Hey team, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we're going to learn the 5 rules of using constant. Hope you enjoy this video. Let's look at rule 1. When we use constant and we declare a variable, we must assign an initial value. So every constant declaration must be initialized. Let's look at the correct way to do this. In our first example, we're using const. We have our variable name, we have our data type, and then we say 33. So if you use const, declaring it with a variable, you must assign it with an initial value. There's the initial value. State is of type string, and we're putting Florida in there. That's legit. And then you can see here we're creating a class called S1. S1 has a constructor. So then I say constant num object S1 is my data type. And I say new S1, and the value for ID would be 1 and state would be started. Let's run this and see how that works. And notice we had a successful run. Now the wrong way, it's going to give us error 1155. Notice const num, and I give it a data type. So if you use a constant, got to declare it, and you must assign it to initial value. There is no initial value on num2. Constant country is a string. There is no initial value. And here we're using a class object S1. I say constant num object. Here's the data type, but there's no initial value. Notice the error says constant declaration must be initialized. 1155. Same error. Same error on an object. And there you have rule 1. Rule number 2 says when we're using a constant, we cannot update the value. Here you can see I'm saying constant num is data type is number, and I'm initialize it with 33. Then I console that out. And then I try to change the value to 44. What does that red squiggly say? Cannot assign to num because it is a constant? See that? Cannot update it. Here we're using a string doing the same thing, and we get the same error, 2588. So that's a problem. Let's run this and see what happens. So notice we get our original 33, and then we failed when we said num equals 44, and then we failed on line 14 where we said str is TypeScript. In our second example, notice I'm using a class object called S1. Then on 17, I say num object, the data type is S1, and I say new S1, and I initialize it through the constructor with 1 and started. Now here's the special thing here. The word new, the operator, it allocates memory. And let's say for this example, it uses position 1000 in memory. And for n bytes is the size of this class object. So when I try to put this value in there, it's going to start off at position 1000. The error is we cannot update the value. So at position 1000, I'm trying to make it look different, and I use the new operator. So this new one won't use 1000. They'll probably use, like 1016, for example, maybe something different, but it won't use 1000. And that is the problem with rule number 2. We can't update num object because its original position is 1000. Now I'm trying to assign it to a new position. Can't do that. But now what you can do is notice that we have num object, and then we can say ID equals 100, and then num object state equals finished, and then we can print that. Let's see what happens. Notice that we're able to change the properties. We just can't change the location. That's kind of like known as the reference in memory. And there you have rule 2. Rule number 3, you cannot redeclare a constant. It's going to give you the error 2451. So notice we say constant num, the data type is number, I'm going to assign it 44. Then I'm going to console print that. Notice we get 44. On line 6, I'm actually going to try to redeclare. Maybe this is down 100 lines in your program, but I tried to say const num, now it's 55. Well, that's an error. Rule 3 also works for objects. Notice class S1, I can go declare it, everything is fine. But when I try to redo it with the same variable name, in Rule 2, I taught you about this new operator and what its job is, so you understand the violation here. So that is rule number 3. You cannot redeclare a constant. Rule number 4, a constant is block scoped. Now, it all starts off on line 4. I say constant num, data type number, value is 55, and then I print that. Then notice here I say open curly, close curly. Every time I use this notation, it actually changes the scope of my program. So here I can redeclare num, and this is just local to lines 8 and 9. And here you can see, again, I open close. The scope is just 15, 16. Same here for 19 and 20. But notice here, this first num I say is 55. Even though we declare it here, this creates it, and as soon as I hit this close curly, this removes it from our available memories. We can't access this no more. So I come in here and I create this. As I hit this, it makes it go away. I come in here, it makes this, and then it goes away. But on this first one, on line 4, when I say constant num, this stays in memory. Because notice, it's at the same block. Can we call that the root? Because, there is no open curly. And then notice here, I'm saying original still alive. This will print 55. Let's see that work. So we get 55. We get 133, which is this first scoped. Then we get 12. Then we get 13. And then at the very end, we get our 55. That is what's called block scoped. Rule number 4. Rule number 5, access before declaration. Let's look at the right way. The right way says constant, your variable, your data type, initialize it with 11. Let's run it. Notice we get 11. Okay, cool. Now, on our next way, we're saying something a little different. Can you imagine I come out and I say, I want a variable called N3. I'm going to put 55 in there. I'm going to try to console log that. And then imagine 100 lines down the program, I decide that I want to make N3 a constant. Well, you can't do that. You can see all these red squigglies. It's kind of like warning you that that's illegal. And then here you get to see a bunch of errors. So access before declaration, you just can't do that. And there you have it, team. Constants in TypeScript. Hopefully these 5 lessons were easy enough. Hopefully you're taking away a nugget or two. And I look forward to seeing you back in my next video. If you have questions or comments, please leave them below. If you enjoyed the video, a thumbs up wouldn't hurt either. Other than that, have a great week. Adios.